Lesson 13, Global Problems. Hello and welcome to this lesson. Today, we are going to discuss a serious but important topic, global problems. We will look at disasters and tragedies, the verbs we use to talk about them, the words for people involved in these events, and finally, some common diseases and epidemics. This is vocabulary that you often see in news reports and documentaries, so it is very useful to know. Let us begin. Disasters and tragedies. First, let us look at different types of disasters. There are natural disasters, events caused by nature, not by human beings. These include an earthquake, which is when the earth moves or trembles. A flood happens when there is too much rain and water covers the land. A drought is the opposite. It is when there is no rain for a long time. A volcano is when hot liquid rock and gases pour out from a mountain. A famine is when there is no food for a large number of people. A landslide occurs when rocks and earth move suddenly down a slope. An epidemic is a disease that affects large numbers of people. An explosion, for example, a bomb, is also a disaster. We also have major accidents or incidents, such as a plane crash. And we have violent winds and storms, which can be called a hurricane, a tornado, a typhoon, or a tropical storm. Finally, we have war or civil war, which is war between people of the same country. Now, a very important language point. When we talk about disasters, we use injure for people. For example, 200 people were injured. But we use damage for things like buildings. For example, many buildings were damaged. So remember, injure is for people, damage is for things. Verbs connected with these words. Now, let us look at some verbs that are commonly used with these disasters. A volcano has erupted in Indonesia. It has exploded and sent out lava and ash. Hundreds are feared dead. That means people believe they have died. The flu epidemic spread rapidly throughout the country. It moved from place to place. Millions are starving as a result of the famine. They are suffering from extreme hunger. A big earthquake shook the city at noon. It made the city tremble. The area is suffering its worst drought for many years. It is experiencing a difficult situation. Civil war has broken out in the north of the country. It has started suddenly. And a tornado swept through the islands yesterday. It moved quickly and powerfully across them. Words for people involved in disasters and tragedies. Now, let us look at the words we use for people who are affected by these events. The explosion resulted in 300 casualties. That means the dead and injured people. The real victims of civil war are children left without parents. They are the ones who suffer the results. There were only 3 survivors. These are the people who lived through the disaster. All the other passengers were reported dead. Thousands of refugees have crossed the border looking for food and shelter. They are people who have escaped from their own country because of a war or other disaster. Millions of migrants enter the country each year, looking for a better life. They travel from one country to another, often to find work. During the battle, the dead and wounded were flown out in helicopters. The wounded are people who have been injured in a battle or by a weapon. Diseases and epidemics. Finally, let us look at some diseases that often make headlines. One is rabies, which is a very serious disease that can be caused by a bite from a dog, fox, or other animal. Another is cholera and typhoid. These are diseases that cause sickness, diarrhea, and other problems, and they're often caused by infected food and water. There is also malaria, which is usually caught because of mosquito bites. You might see headlines like, "Tourists told, get injections before you travel to prevent these diseases," or "Cholera and typhoid injections not needed," says tourism minister. These are common topics in global health news. So, that is our lesson on global problems. These are serious topics, but the vocabulary is very important for understanding news and discussing world events in English.